So this is for you, Helen, actually, and with thanks to my teacher Louise as well for sharing this with me, how we might find more freedom for the breath through releasing our forearms and our shoulders, actually. So you want to sit in a comfortable position. You can kneel if sitting in this position is not comfortable for you. And then why don't we just come into the body, so just rest your hands wherever feels comfortable to rest them. And maybe you just come to your breath. And then just feel your hands. And notice the length of your forearms, so from your wrist joints to your elbow joints. And just know you've got 2 bones, in theory anyway, in each forearm. And then notice you've got 1 upper arm bone each side, and then your shoulder joints. And so maybe your right hand just goes and has a feel around the back, so underneath your left armpit and around the back of your left shoulder blade there. So you can just feel, there's your shoulder blade. And then you can come all the way underneath the armpit. There's the armpit, there's your collarbone, your left collarbone. And then there's the top of the shoulder joint and your arm bone. And just have a sense as you feel that you're collecting all of this together at the shoulder. I mean, it's quite a big joint, really. And then once you've done that on that side, just pause, right hand can come back down, just feel that left shoulder. You'll probably notice that you're more in it now. So let's do the same on the other side. So the left hand can now go underneath the right arm and just feel around the back towards the right shoulder blade if you can. Start to notice how tight the shoulders are. And then all the way around through the collarbone and the top of the shoulder joint, and there's your right upper arm bone as well. And with this sense again of kind of gathering to the shoulder, all of this. And so then the left hand can come back on the left leg. And there are your 2 shoulders. And just find more of your armpits. And then find your forearms. And we're just going to take the hands away from the legs and allow more of a horizontal positioning for the forearms. And then find your hands, and just imagine your hands like big bear paws, or like you're wearing gloves. So the hands are really big, and then there's the length of your forearms. And just slowly, it's almost, just imagine almost like you've got dusters in your hands and you're just going to polish the aura of your legs. And so your hands go forward and backwards, but as they do that, obviously your forearms go forward and backwards. And you might notice how this does something to your shoulders as well. So just notice that. And then we'll stop doing that and we'll find the horizontal nature of the forearms without moving anything for a moment. And then let's see if the elbows can start to come back a little bit. Let's have it in our mind that the elbows want to find more space behind the shoulder joints. So the elbows have to come back underneath and behind the shoulder joints. And it's like the forearms rest on the air and the hands rest on the air, because otherwise we have a tendency to grip through the arms. And just notice, very subtle, what this does to your lower ribs. How you might start to find more of your lower ribs, more of your shoulder joints, and you might start to free yourself between the shoulder blades. So notice all of that. And then let's open the eyes if they're closed. And let's release from this position. And we're going to come up to stand, but before we do so, just briefly, just see if you can bring your right foot onto the mat as I'm doing here, and the left knee is bent. And the right buttock can be away from the mat if that's possible. And if we turn like that, you can see. And I just want you to really find your right foot and an increasing softness through your right calf muscles. And as you soften the right calf muscles forward, I think you'll find that the knee joint, the back of the knee joint, we want to find more space. And then we want the back of the right thigh bone to come almost up and around into the right hip joint. And so that the right buttock isn't just dropping. And then if you find more of that kind of going up, you'll find that through the spine as well. And then the hands can come on the mat. And again, you're not rigid through the elbows, so there's that, even though the forearms are not horizontal, there's a sense that they could be. And so the spine starts to take itself, I think. You'll find deeper into your back, but more importantly, you'll start to define your right hip a little bit more. So just take a couple of breaths there. Really soften the calves forward. Let the thigh bone come deeper back and up in the right hip joint. Let there be a softness through your sacrum. Let the breath come. And then we'll take another breath in. And as you breathe out, let's switch so that we do that on the other side. So, I mean, you can spend a lot longer there. It's a practice in itself, really. And just observing the body. So if you just make one change, then you just witness what the body does with it. So left foot on the mat now, soften the left calf muscles forward. And let the left knee then come back and up, taking the thigh bone up. And let there be softness through the arms, and the spine can be deep in the back. It will help you to find your breath a little bit more as well. And so there's a real sense of collecting into the back of the left waist, as if you were ruffling your back waist. And they're still going up through the spine. So the tail, it's not like you're sticking your tail out, but you're equally not dropping it. It's like literally coming up. And then there's a resting, a softness through the breastbone. And then we'll take a breath in and a breath out. And then we're going to bring ourselves to stand from here. So you could literally come to stand from here if you wanted to. And we'll take Tadasana. Maybe the feet can be relatively close together. And you're just going to find your feet. You're going to soften the calves as much as you can, where there's a little softness in the knee joints. The thigh bones want to find more of the hip joints. There's a softness in the sacrum. Not gripping, not holding on the thighs. And then let's find that horizontal nature through the forearms again. So the forearms find more of the air. Big bare paws without stretching the hands apart. Now a bit radical here is the idea that you've got someone standing on your shoulders. And actually, even more radical is the idea you're standing on someone's shoulders. So again, just feel that fluidity that you'd need if you were standing on someone's shoulders, and there they are standing on your shoulders, and then you find your right foot and you take a breath in, breath out, and the right foot steps itself forward. And then there are your calves softening as much as possible, thigh bones coming back. There's the horizontal nature of the forearms, the elbows still want to find that space behind the shoulders, and then just take a little twist to the right. And see if you can find more sense of the inner thighs, almost wanting to smile a little bit. And a resting of the breastbone. And then we'll take a breath in and a breath out from there, and returning. And then we'll breathe in, breathe out, and step the right foot back. Still that horizontal nature through the forearms, big bare paws. Let's take a breath in, breath out. Left foot steps forward, softening as much as you can into the calves. Having a softness in the knees, thigh bones want to come back. We're going to take a breath in, breath out. A little turn to the left, finding those kind of smiling inner thighs almost. And I mean, you can hang out here for a while if you wanted to, and just really feel into the front of the spine. Rest the breastbone. Keep finding your hands, spine deep in the back. And then we'll take a breath in, breath out, and come all the way back around. And we'll step back into Tadasana, but this time we'll have the feet apart. And let's see if we can still maintain that sense of horizontal through the forearms. And if we can still maintain that sense of someone standing on our shoulders. And if we can still maintain as much as we can anyway. And there is no perfect, but a softness through the calves. And maybe we can have a sense that we don't want to just lift the buttocks or the sit bones. But we want to find more of the feet and the hands. So that as we start to find Uttanasana, we still keep that sense of the person standing on our shoulders. And we're still standing on someone else's shoulders. And we go slowly. We don't just drop the head. We don't just drop that person off our shoulders. There is a point at which you will have no choice. But until then, just be mindful that you're still standing on someone's shoulders. There's still that softness through your calves. There's that kind of gathering to your waist. Slowly, slowly, calves, not lifting the butt. And then almost imagining you've got a bar at the top of the thighs. And there's still that gathering into your belly. And still the inner thighs want to smile. And then you'll get to a point, some of you, where you obviously can't go any further. And some of you might be able to start to bring the hands towards the mat without just dropping the shoulders and maintaining some of the horizontal through the forearms, even though you kind of lose it on one hand. And there's still that sense, as much as possible, of softening the calves forward. And the breath. And then when you come out of the posture, there's a sense of finding that horizontal again, of finding your feet, of your calves. And again, not just sticking the butt out, but really finding the feet, the gathering into the middle, the forearms. At some point, you almost pick that person back up onto your shoulders again. As you come all the way back up to stand. And the hands can rest down without dropping the shoulders. And there's still that softness as much as possible through the calves. You haven't just dropped the tail or the buttocks. And there's armpits. And breath. And then maybe we can find that horizontal again through the forearms, the elbows back, and then maybe we can find on the right foot, take a breath in, breath out, right foot steps forward. And we can take the weight onto the right foot, and they're still coming up through the spine. As you wait until you feel that impulse for the left foot to float. And maybe it floats its way up and the leg isn't static, you can still turn it in and out. And there's your forearms. There's your forearms. And then maybe that left hand can go back towards the left heel. And you've still got your forearms. Or maybe you just stay here. And you haven't pulled away. And then we'll take a breath in, breath out. The left foot can come down. And we'll step back into Tadasana, just pause, feel. And then we'll find that horizontal nature again through the forearms. And we'll take a breath in, breath out. The left foot steps itself forward now. It's still going up through the spine. And we wait. And there's the left foot and there's the left calf muscle. And they're still going up through the spine. And we wait and we wait and we find the right toes almost. And there will come a point at which that right foot will just float its way up. And maybe we stay there. Or maybe the right knee bends. And maybe the forearms go back, the elbows go back. And maybe the right hand finds the right heel without pulling away. And maybe we stay there, or maybe we stay here for Vajrasana 3. And then we'll take a breath in, breath out, and release anyway. The right foot back down onto the mat. Left foot back on the mat, Tadasana. And then just trying to come down, sort of through a squat, but just finding freedom through the feet as much as possible. And that sense of the calves as much as possible, softening forward and the knees wanting to come up and back. And we can still have that horizontal nature through the forearms. I think you'll find that you'll have to find more of your ankles. And you can take a long time to do this if you wanted to. You're probably doing it quicker than we would normally do it, just so we can find the mat. That sense of the knees coming up. I mean, there is the possibility of kind of pausing halfway down. And so the knees are still coming up and back. And the thigh bones are deep in the pelvis. And without dropping the upper bodies, it's almost like you've still got that person wanting to be on your shoulders as your torso comes down the middle. And the feet are taking you to your knees, and your knees are taking you to your hips. And then maybe it's almost like you could bring your forearms to the mat. The elbows want to be back behind the shoulders. The knees rest on the upper arms, you look forward, and your spine is as deep in the back as possible. And one foot and the other foot comes up into Bakasana, possibly. Or practicing that for a moment before you bring yourself down onto your knees. And then you're going to find the backs of or the tops of your feet and the tops of your shins, and the hands can be on the mat. I mean, we could be here for 10 minutes as well. Just trying to find more of the tops of the feet and the shins and the hands, the big bear paws, and bringing the pelvis forward a little bit, which is tricky because then you lose your feet, so you have to really try and stay on your feet. And then you have to find your big bear paws and this horizontal nature through the forearms, so the elbows wanting to come up behind the shoulders, and the shoulders wanting to drop, so you can still have someone on your back. And then that softness through your middle. And then possibly the toes can tuck under without disturbing too much else, which is a practice in itself. And then finding the length of the forearms again. And this going up through the shoulders and the softness through the middle and the calves, and then maybe one knee can come up and then the other. And these are two different legs that can do things differently. And we're not just lifting the butt up. And there's the shoulder still wanting to go up. And there's the calf muscle still wanting to soften forward, and there's the top of the thigh that wants to find space from the pelvis. And there's this lightness through your middle. And you're in Ardha Mukha Svanasana. And you're not gripping in the middle. And there's a softness as much as possible through the calves. You haven't just lifted the bum. And then coming down without dropping the pelvis. Breathing in, breathing out, and finding the shoulders again. And so that then maybe we can just or find the tops of the feet and the shins again. And so maybe you can be kind of here where you've got that forearm thing going on again, with the horizontal nature, and someone standing on your shoulders. And so actually, even when you try to find this positioning for forearm downward facing dog, you don't just collapse down. And there's the feet, and there's the thigh bones and the hips, and they're still going up through the shoulders, so that eventually at some point the forearms find the mat you haven't dropped, and you're in your forearms, and there's your big bear paws, and there's the tops of your feet, and there's that space at the top of the thighs, and maybe one foot can tuck under and then the other. And they're still going up through the spine. And it's still the possibility someone could stand on your shoulders as a knee comes up. And then the other. And maybe nothing more happens. But you're really deep in your shoulders. And there's your thigh bones and your calf muscles softening. And maybe some of you can find the mat with one of your hands. And then your other hand. And so you find your way back into Ardha Mukha Svanasana without pushing. And then you can come down from there. Maybe you come back onto your forearms, and there's still that going up through the spine. And then the knees can come down. And then you can just lie on your belly, possibly with the forehead on the mat. And the hands could possibly be in line with your lower ribs. And there's the tops of your feet. And your tail is free, and there's a softness through your calves. And even here, there's that sense that someone still wants to stand on your shoulders, and the elbows want to be back behind the shoulders, and there's still that length to your forearms. So maybe you can find Bhujangasana from here, so you take a breath in, and the elbows still stay bent a little bit, wanting to be back behind the shoulders. Spine is really deep in your back, and you're still at your feet. And you can breathe, and you can find your armpits, and then you can take a breath in, breath out, and find your way back down onto the mat. And then you can just roll yourself over. You can take a little bridge, so the feet can find the mat, and the forearms can find the mat, and the bare paws. And you're trying not to grip through your calf muscles and your thighs. And then maybe you really stay as much as you can in your hands and your feet. And you take a breath in, breath out, and start to find a little bridge, Setu Bandhasana, without just pushing the hips to the ceiling. So there are your hands, there are your feet. And the knees want to find more of the hips. And when you come down, try not to push into the heels or let the pelvis pull away from the rib cage. And maybe there's a sense almost of the tail wanting to find the mat before any other part of the spine. And then you could just release your legs without pulling them away. And you could then roll your forearms, so I say roll your forearms, turning at the elbow joints so the palms of the hands then face the ceiling. And you can just let this settle. And of course you can carry on resting here indefinitely if you wanted to. But otherwise you're just going to bring yourself back to sit. And then bring your hands back onto your legs. And the eyes can close. And I think you'll find that there's more lightness now to your breath. More ease. And so you could just stay here for a moment, just witnessing your breath. And maybe we just close our practice together by bringing the hands to the heart. And just bowing your head towards your hands, acknowledging that light that shines in the heart. And before opening your eyes. And namaste.